Hello everybody and welcome. I am the Beta Plan and this is my take on the good and the bad of Crusader Kings 3. Now, just to give you a little bit of a reference point, this video is based on 3 days of me playing full-time CK3, thank you my fiance, and on top of that 3.5k hours of CK2 and another 1000 odd hours or so in other grand strategy game titles via Paradox Interactive. It almost seems like I have no life, doesn't it? Anyways, in this video I'm going to try and break down my view on CK3. Now, and I'm certain there are other opinions out there, and they are surely valid for CK3 because it is an extensive game with near limitless possibilities. But for this particular video I'm going to focus on my view, and I'm going to focus on what I think might be interesting for you to decide if you like the game or not, and whether if you want to buy it or not. So I'm going to break it down into what do you get for your money in comparison to other grand strategy titles. What is the exact learning curve of Crusader Kings 3? How does it compare with its predecessor CK2 in terms of UI, atmosphere, gameplay, and what are features I would like to see in the upcoming updates and DLCs, and I will end this video with a few minor tips and tricks if you actually already have the game. After all, if the learning curve is really high, you might get a lot of minutes out of it, but it might be incomprehensible mumbo jumbo, which is not fun at all. Now, I have heard a few content creators say that CK3 is easier to learn than CK2. I'm not sure if I agree. I would say give it a yes or no statement. If you come into CK3 fresh, not having played CK2, there is still a lot of elements that you need to learn. There are so many more options even than CK2 that it might be just overwhelming. Having said that, it's easier to get a grip on it because of the in-game encyclopedia, much like the Civilization series. And should that not be enough, every concept in the game is always a highlighted word, which you can hover over to get an embedded tooltip, which most of the time also has concepts that are highlighted to get another tooltip. In other words, you can find everything you need to know in order to learn the game using in-game information. So, the learning curve still requires you to sit down, read and learn, but it's easier to access. So, let's move on to the next element. Now, I briefly touched upon it already, comparing CK3 with CK2, but let's start going about it a little bit more systematic. How about the UI? I've heard other content creators being very happy with the UI. They say it's more sleek, it's less in the way, and it's easier to find things. Personally, I do not entirely agree. I don't understand why my prisoners are now in the same tab as the people in my court, for instance, but that may be just me having to readjust to how it works. Nor can you tell me that you do not see my screen cluttered in the example here in the gameplay with the new UI. Personally, I kind of miss the old immersive UI. After all, that is why I play CK2, CK3, and I think a lot of people do, because it's about a dynasty. I would have loved to see that a little bit more immersive, a little bit less dark and sleek, but it is clear, I have to say that, and I cannot deny that. And that brings me right into atmosphere. Does that then break the atmosphere completely? No, absolutely not. Personally, I enjoy the new music. The Gregorian choirs in the background are amazing, and the changes that happen when you, for instance, declare war or certain events happen is very clear, and it is like you gotta focus on this, or this is important, or this is tragic, and that atmosphere has been brought in very well. On top of that comes, for instance, as I said in my first stream analysis video, the 3D models with the cultural appropriate clothing, which is much more than CK2 also had in the beginning. That really helps to bring that immersion and that atmosphere to life, and I think CK3 excels at it in comparison to CK2. But we're not just looking at this game like it is a show or movie that we're going to. It is a game. So how about the gameplay? Well, actually, I think that they have done excellent in balancing the game, rebalancing the game, if you will. Every stat that you now own, whether it's diplomacy, stewardship, intrigue, learning or martial, all have their importance. And where I used to focus on one or two a lot, now I cannot anymore. In fact, I have started to play intrigue characters and find it hilariously fun. I feel like learning is important now because my cultural advances are based upon it, and in some places, in some religions, learning is important. I feel like that is so much better. Also, the jobs for your council have been much more spread in such a way that each council member has important tasks, and that I sometimes find myself wondering which one would be the best to let them do right now for my realm. I love it. It's no longer your marshal saying always, yeah, well, train troops or train the army, what have you not. I don't even know anymore what the option is. But now control is important, and I need to switch in between that. I need to spread religion, but I also want to get the claim on the county. It's like, you need to do those things. I think that that aspect has made the game so much more interesting and caters better to different playstyles. So that element gets, for me personally, a big, huge plus in comparison to its predecessor. And of course then there is the lifestyles. The lifestyles give so much flair to your character. It is, in way of life, expansion of CK2, but then expanded upon, and I think that gives us a lot more immersion, another big plus. So does that mean that CK3 is a perfect game out of the box? No, it's not. No, don't get me wrong, it's really, really good at the start, but there are some things that I think are either oversights or could use an improvement. One of those oversights is, I believe, the Dynasty viewer. In a game that is about dynasties, I don't understand why either my arrow keys, WASD or mouse movement does not help me to go to the old ancestor that founded the dynasty. I can pan to the dynasty head, I can pan to me, but I can't pan to the ancestor. I can use my mouse wheel to zoom in, zoom out, but that's about it. And then we come to this odd thing in technology. Why can I research this technology giving me Confederate partition when I already have Confederate partition? Huh? Also, please just call it Gavelkind and have a tooltip telling people what Gavelkind means. You have all these lovely tooltips now, and now you've called Gavelkind partition, which, well, whatever, probably me. Speaking of personal things, in CK3 it's not possible to change the starting date by 1 day, month or year. Now I know that not a lot of people used it, but I did use it for my channel, like the One Ottoman's Province start. So, a personal thing, and perhaps sorry for some of my viewers, but probably not a very big hiccup for CK3 itself. Also, I understand that a king doesn't want to listen to his duke ally for attaching an army to his army, but let me at least then, for instance, have a prestige cost in order to tell them to attach to my army, because really, ally, please, no, don't go away, I need you, I'm dying! Oh. It's annoying because, well, you have to work together in a war. Anyways, for the next two examples, I'm going to use historical precedent in order to suggest new mechanics. The first I think would be a favorite of a lot of people, because it involves William the Bastard. William the Bastard had captured Harold Godwinson before he became King of England, and had kind of forced him to swear an oath to step off the throne in order to let William the Bastard take the throne. Now, he didn't do that, of course, and therefore William attacked, along with the reasoning that he had fostered a little bastard, so was a bad Catholic. I think he just wanted land, but anyways. There is no mechanic right now for when you take someone in prison to say, hey, I want to claim on your title. Now, sure, you can attach a prestige and piety cost and what have you not, make it quite steep in order to get that done, but it would be kind of a cool mechanic instead of just saying to them, hey, give up your claims on my land. Why not do the reverse? Speaking of reverse, I would like a reverse type of system for creating a new religion. And my historical precedent for that would be King George VIII of England. Because, well, he wanted to divorce his wife, but the Pope wouldn't let him, as a good Catholic. He said, well then, screw you, I'm just gonna make a new religion. He created a new religion, and I think he got remarried 7 more times, because I think in total he had 8 wives, but I may be off 1 or less. But anyways, yes, because he was a sinner, and because he wanted to get his way, he created a new religion. So why not have people with very low piety, but very high prestige, have a mechanic to also create a new religion? At least I would love to see that. Well, let me know what you think about these ideas in the comments, and if you have any suggestions of your own for the CK3, well, why don't you write them down there as well, and we can discuss together. I always enjoy a good conversation with my community. And then we come to the last part of the video, a few tips and tricks for those people who already own the game. Now I'm sure some of these tips and tricks are already, well, discussed by other content creators, but I do want to give it my own little flair, if you will, because I think some of these are very important in order to play the game a little bit more enjoyably. First of all, any of those tooltips, they are timer locked, and you can adjust the timer, or even if the timer works via the click of a middle mouse button, by going into the settings. That is very handy, because otherwise it's really annoying long wait, I think, right now, or not even clear why it happens, even if you see a small bar going up within the tooltip to show you how long you have to wait. Another thing is, if you have conquered something, be aware of the popular opinion within the county as well as your control. Conquest, unlike in CK2, it doesn't immediately establish you as a ruler as it should be. It is a difference and a change that I really like, but it is something you have to keep in mind. Put your marshal on task to increase control, and if need be, change culture via your steward and the religion via your court chaplain. Last thing, very nice little trick, if you have this abduction scheme, use it. Then about 1 or 2 months before it ends, declare war upon the person you're trying to abduct, and then voila, it's an insta win, because the declaration of war and the abduction scheme go off at the same time, and because you've captured the leader of the enemy territory you're trying to conquer, you automatically get a 100% war score. So, a war won without a life lost. Now I think that is a perfect war, isn't it? I hope you enjoyed this video, and for now I say I thank you for watching. And if indeed you enjoyed this video, then please have a look around my channel. I have over 1,000 videos on strategy games and what have you not. And even if you don't, then do remember, great peril yields great beauty.